Jake Morgan was not supposed to land here. He was a young human engineer, only 26 years old, sent on a simple mission, repair a broken satellite near Sector 17. But something went wrong, very wrong. A sudden energy wave struck his small craft, spinning it out of control. Lights flashed. Warnings screamed in his ears. Jake fought the controls, but his ship was falling fast. Then dash crashed. The sky turned purple. Smoke rose from the broken remains of his ship. When Jake opened his eyes, he was alive but stranded. He unstrapped himself, grabbed his oxygen scanner, and stepped outside. The air was breathable. That was good, but something felt strange. The grass under his boots was soft and glowing faint blue. The sky was not like Earth. It had 2 suns and small floating islands above the land. Everything was peaceful. Too peaceful. Jake looked around. Where the hell am I? He whispered. Suddenly, he heard footsteps, soft, light, and many of them. He turned. A group of tall, beautiful alien women walked toward him. They had smooth purple skin, silver hair, and large glowing eyes. They smiled at him with warmth. Then it happened. They lifted their dresses, all of them, at the same time. Jake's mouth fell open. What the? He turned around, covering his face with his hands. Wait, stop, what are you doing? But the women only laughed. It wasn't mocking, it was friendly, cheerful. One of them, with golden rings on her arms, stepped forward and said softly, "Welcome, Earthmale. You have been greeted in the Valexian way." Greeted? Jake blinked in shock. By showing me ... Another woman giggled. "It's our custom. It means we accept you." Before Jake could say anything more, loud horns sounded from the hills. A group of armored alien guards rushed in, shouting something in a language Jake didn't understand. One of them pointed a glowing spear at the women. "Stand down," he barked in rough English. "He does not know the rules of choosing." The guards separated the women from Jake, who stood frozen in place. The lead guard looked at Jake with sharp eyes. "You are not safe here. Come with me." Jake didn't argue. The guards brought him to a floating city made of crystal and gold. The place was massive. Towers reached the clouds, and bridges hung in the air. It was like something out of a dream. Jake was taken to a large room with pillars and silk curtains. A tall woman with a crown sat on a high throne. Her presence was powerful. She was the Queen of Valexia. "Human," she said in a calm, deep voice. "You are not here by chance. The planet Valexia has accepted you." Jake bowed awkwardly. I crashed here by accident. I don't mean any harm, and I didn't understand what those women were doing." The Queen smiled slightly. "Ah, yes, the greeting." She stood and walked toward him. "On our world, when a female finds a male she desires, she greets him by revealing herself. It is not shameful. It is a bond ritual." Jake felt his face go red. "Okay, but I'm not here to bond. I'm just trying to survive in contact." "My people," the Queen nodded. "I understand. But 3 females have already greeted you. You have been chosen." Jake blinked. "Chosen for what?" She stepped closer and said softly, "For mating ... or marriage, if you wish." His heart jumped. "Wait, what?" The Queen looked at him with serious eyes. "You must choose one of them, or face the trial of rejection." Jake stared at her. "Trial? That sounds bad." The Queen replied, "On Valexia, when a male refuses a female's greeting, he must prove his reasons. It is an old law." Jake raised his hands. "But I didn't ask for this. You must still answer," she said. "You have 1 full cycle hour day to decide." That night, Jake sat in the chamber given to him. It was quiet, but his mind was loud. What was this place? Why did they choose him? He thought back to the moment the women lifted their dresses. At first he was shocked, but now he wasn't sure. There was no evil in their eyes. No lust. Only honesty. What if this world wasn't just strange, but beautiful in its own way? Jake stood up and walked to the window. The twin moons were rising. Somewhere out there, 3 alien women waited for his answer. He sighed. This planet is insane, he whispered. But maybe I was meant to land here after all. Jake didn't wake up in a bed. He woke up on a floating cushion, hovering 2 feet off the ground, wrapped in silk sheets that smelled like warm fruit. A soft hum came from the walls. This wasn't a dream, this was Velexia. A hologram appeared. Beside his head, showing a glowing line of text, "The Queen invites you to the Hall of Choosing." Jake groaned. Not this again. He had survived a ship crash. He had been greeted by alien women lifting their dresses. And now he was being summoned for something that sounded like a game show from another galaxy. But when he stepped outside the room, things were different. The hallway was lined with alien symbols, and 3 women were waiting for him, Zelra, Mina, and Tyra, the same ones who had greeted him yesterday. They stood tall and proud, each wearing a long veil with glowing embroidery. They didn't speak. They just bowed. Jake scratched his head. "Okay, are you 3 following me now?" Zelra spoke first. "You entered the choosing circle. Now we must be present at your side." Jake blinked. "What's the choosing circle?" Tyra, the tallest of the 3, said calmly, "You accepted our greeting by breathing the same air. That makes you a candidate." Jake gave her a look. "I breathe air everywhere. That doesn't mean I want to get married." Mina giggled softly, covering her mouth. "You're funny, Earthman. That will make it harder." "Harder?" Jake asked. "To say no," she said with a wink. The Queen's Hall was like a crystal ocean, massive, cold, echoing. Jake stood in the center, surrounded by silent alien nobles. Everyone stared at him. The Queen entered, wearing a gown that sparkled like moving stars. She raised her hand, and all went quiet. "Jake Morgan of Earth," she said, "you have been greeted by 3 of our daughters. As Valexian law demands, you must now learn the rule of choosing." Jake muttered, "Here we go." The Queen continued, her voice echoing through the hall. "When a female lifts her veil to a male, it means she is willing to share life, blood, and future. When 3 do so, it is rare. When the male is not of our kind, it is sacred." Jake stepped forward. "With respect, Your Majesty, I don't want to insult anyone, but I didn't ask for this. I'm just a technician from Earth. I fix satellites. I don't even have a girlfriend, let alone a space wife." Whispers spread through the hall. The Queen raised an eyebrow. "You stand between custom and change, Jake Morgan. If you reject the 3, you must face the trial. But if you choose one, she becomes your shield, and you become hers." Jake frowned. "Shield?" Zelra stepped forward now, her voice clear. "It means we protect each other, always. In Velexia, love begins not with kisses, but with choice under pressure." Later, in a private garden, Jake finally sat down with the 3 alien women. Zelra sat beside him, watching the moonflowers bloom. "We don't expect you to love us instantly. But choosing is not about love at first. It's about intention. If your heart wants to understand, that's enough." Jake looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time. Not as a purple-skinned alien, but as a person. "But what if I don't choose anyone?" Tyra's voice came from behind him. "Then we say goodbye. You leave Velexia alone." Mina added, "But first, you face a trial. And the trial is not easy, especially for off-worlders." Jake stood up. "What kind of trial?" Zelra looked at him seriously. "A test of character. You will be challenged not with weapons, but with truth. They will ask you, 'Why did you reject us?' And your answer must be worthy." As the night deepened, Jake sat alone under a glowing tree. The sky shimmered with blue comets. He whispered to himself, "This planet is testing me, but maybe it's also teaching me." Somewhere deep inside, he felt a pull not to escape, but to understand. Maybe the real question wasn't why he crashed here. Maybe it was, who will he become now that he has? Jake was dreaming of Earth, the sound of ocean waves, the smell of coffee, the warmth of the sun. Then a loud horn blasted through the palace. Boom! Jake's eyes flew open. The ground beneath him shook slightly. The golden room he slept in, lit up with red lights. The walls spoke in a calm female voice. "Attention, human Jake Morgan, your trial begins now." Jake sat up in bed. "Wait, what now?" Within minutes, armored guards came into the room. They didn't drag him, but they didn't wait either. Jake was given a dark ceremonial robe and guided through silent halls. No one smiled. No one spoke. Outside, in the center of the Valexian capital, a huge round arena stood glowing like fire. Thousands of aliens had gathered. A silver platform floated in the center with one glowing chair in the middle. Jake was led to it. As he sat down, he realized this wasn't a trial like court. This was a trial of the soul. The Queen's voice echoed from above. "Jake Morgan of Earth, you have not yet chosen. 3 Valexian daughters offered you greeting. You remained undecided." The crowd murmured softly, "You have one chance." The Queen continued, "Explain to us why you reject the choosing." Jake stood, nervous. His voice cracked. "I didn't mean to offend anyone. I didn't even understand the customs. I came here by accident." "No one is angry," the Queen said. "But intention matters. Your answer must show truth. Speak it clearly." Jake took a deep breath. "I don't know how to choose someone I just met. Where I come from, love takes time. I don't know Zelra, Mena, or Tira well enough. I respect them, but I can't lie and pretend I'm ready." He looked up at the Queen. "Isn't honesty better than a forced bond?" The arena went silent. Then came the twist. A woman stepped forward from the crowd. She wore warrior armor and had cold eyes. She raised her arm and declared, "I challenge his answer. I say this human is afraid, not honest." Gasps spread. Queen nodded. "Challenge accepted. The trial must continue." Jake frowned. "What now?" Zelra stepped out from the audience and walked straight to him. Her voice was calm, but strong. "He doesn't fight. I do." The crowd exploded in noise. Jake shouted, "What are you doing?" Zelra didn't look back. "This is our way. If I win, your words will be accepted. If I lose ... they won't." The Queen raised her hand. "Zelra, daughter of House Lunara, you stand as shield for the human?" "I do," she said without fear. Jake whispered, stunned, "Why would you do this for me?" Zelra glanced at him once. "Because I believe you. Even if you don't choose me, I still choose you." The arena changed. The center became a circle of glowing light. Zelra stepped inside. Across from her, the challenger entered twice, her size holding a long spear. Jake watched, frozen. A horn sounded. The fight began. Zelra moved like a shadow, quick, graceful. She dodged, struck, rolled. The challenger was strong, but Zelra was smart. She didn't need to overpower, she needed to survive. Jake couldn't look away. Every time Zelra was knocked down, she got back up. Every hit she took, she turned into movement. The crowd began to cheer, not just for the fight, but for her will. After several minutes, Zelra flipped behind the challenger and placed her palm on the opponent's back. Light flared. Match over. Victory. The Queen stood. The humans. Truth is accepted. He is free from choosing, yet honored for his courage. Zelra fell to one knee, breathing hard. Jake ran to her side. "You didn't have to do that," he said softly. Zelra looked up at him with tired eyes. "Yes, I did. Because no one else saw what I saw in you." Jake held her hand without thinking. In that moment, the people of Valexia saw something more powerful than tradition. They saw something human. Something real. Asterisk. Zelra didn't wake up in her own room. She woke up in the healing chamber, surrounded by soft glowing vines and floating stones. That pulsed gently with energy. Her body ached, but her heart was calm. She had won the trial. But what surprised her most was the fact that Jake never left her side. Jake sat near her bed, his back against the wall, arms crossed, eyes half closed. He looked exhausted but alert, like someone ready to defend her if another challenge came. When Zelra moved slightly, he sat up straight. "You're awake," he said quietly. Zelra gave a small nod. "You stayed." Jake rubbed the back of his neck. "I figured ... After everything you did for me, the least I could do was sit and make sure you didn't die." Zelra smiled weakly. "Fair trade." Later that day, the Queen summoned them both, not with guards, not with a command, but with a quiet message. "Come to the Hall of Firestones. It's time you knew the truth." Jake and Zelra followed a priestess through a hidden tunnel under the palace. Torches lit the way, but the walls held carving strange symbols of alien women, standing with humans. It looked ancient. Jake stopped at one of the walls. "That's a human, isn't it?" The priestess nodded. "The first." Zelra blinked. "I thought humans never came here before." The priestess replied, "They came once. A long time ago, and everything changed after that." Inside the Hall of Firestones, glowing red crystals floated mid-air. In the center, a massive circular tablet spun slowly, showing moving images, a memory from Valexian history. The Queen stood there, waiting. "Watch," she said. The images came alive. Thousands of years ago, the Valexian world was ruled by war. Female clans fought over power, resources, and bloodlines. No male ever held a place of honor. Males were seen only as breeding tools, nothing more. But then, a ship crashed just like Jake's. A single human male survived. He was different. He didn't fight. He didn't demand. He simply listened. One by one, alien women approached him. With weapons, but with lowered veils and open hands. They showed they carried nothing, no weapons, no lies. Only themselves. That was the beginning of the greeting custom. Not to seduce, but to surrender ego. Jake stood in silence. So ... Lifting. The dress wasn't about showing off. It was about proving peace. The Queen nodded. It was the only way to stop killing. When a woman revealed herself, she was saying, "I hold nothing that can hurt you." It became a sacred act. It became the greeting. Zelra looked down, her voice soft. "But now, it has become a game, a way to chase males. I see it now." The Queen sighed. "You reminded us of the old truth. By not choosing quickly, you showed that choice should be earned, not expected." Later, as they walked through the palace gardens, Jake and Zelra stopped near a small pond. The moonlight danced on the water. Zelra sat on a stone. "You should leave soon. Your people will come for you. Earth will be waiting." Jake didn't answer right away. He looked at her, really looked at her. Zelra's hair glowed silver in the moonlight. Her face still held bruises from the fight. But her eyes were strong, brave. Jake sat beside her. "You fought for me. You didn't even know me. Why?" Zelra's voice was barely a whisper. "Because something inside me ... trusted you. And because I'm tired of following customs that don't feel right anymore." Jake nodded. "Me too." They sat in silence, side by side, as the twin moons rose above them. For the first time since crashing on Valexia, Jake didn't feel like an outsider anymore. He felt like someone who had a choice. Not just which woman to choose ... but what kind of man he would become. It started with a touch. Not a kiss, not a word. Just Jake's hand brushing against Zelra's, and the moment their fingers touched, the sky changed color. Above the palace gardens, the twin moons flared gold for a second, just a flash, and then returned to silver. The wind stilled. The flowers around them pulsed once with light. Jake pulled his hand back quickly. What was that? Zelra stared at her palm in shock. You touched me, in public, with intent. Jake blinked. Intent? I was comforting you. But Zelra's expression had changed from calm to terrified. You don't understand, she whispered. That wasn't just comfort. That's a signal. You've started the bonding ritual. Jake was rushed into the palace before he could ask more questions. Guards surrounded him, not with weapons, but with scanners and medical tools. Scientists in robes hovered over him, scanning his skin, his pulse, his eyes. What's happening? Jake shouted. A priestess finally answered. You made contact during moonrise, during Vilaka's sacred hour. That time is tied to the body's bonding field. Your touch was accepted by her. Now, your DNA is reacting. Jake rubbed his temple. Reacting? This isn't a science experiment. I didn't mean to bond with anyone, but his body felt warm, not in a bad way. Not painful, just different. His heart beat slower, but stronger. His thoughts were calm, like floating on water. Somewhere deep inside. Something had changed. Zelra was brought into a private chamber shortly after. She was still shaken. Jake, I never meant for this to happen. I didn't either, he said softly. But what does it mean? Zelra took a deep breath. The bond links us. If we complete it, your body will adapt fully to Vilexia. You'll be able to breathe deeper, think faster. But you'll never survive on Earth again. Jake sat down slowly. So I either break the bond, or I lose my planet. Zelra nodded. Yes. A council was held that night. The queen sat in silence as nobles argued. He should be punished. No outsider should activate a bond without training. He didn't know. He's human. Ignorance isn't a crime. If we allow this, it sets a dangerous precedent. What if others do the same? But then the queen spoke, and all went quiet. I watched the moment, she said. His touch was not greedy. It was not selfish. It was pure. And for the first time in 1,000 years, I saw the bond activate in truth. Jake was given 3 days. 3 days to decide whether to complete the bond with Zelra or have it cut by force. But the cutting would be painful. Not just for him, but for her. Because if a bond is broken, it scars both souls. Forever. That night, Jake walked alone through the empty palace. He thought of Earth, his old life, his family. But when he closed his eyes, he saw Zelra's eyes. Not her body, not her alien form, just her soul, her courage, her voice. He whispered to the stars. What if I found the right person in the wrong galaxy? In her room, Zelra stood in front of a mirror. Her hand still tingled where Jake had touched her. She whispered to herself, what if he goes back? What if I lose the only one who ever looked at me? Not as a symbol, not as a warrior, but as me? Outside the palace, on the high balcony, Jake waited. The air shimmered. He heard footsteps. Zelra stood beside him, silent for a moment. Then she reached out slowly, and this time, she touched his hand first. No sky changed, no flowers glowed. Only their hearts did. The message came from the sky. A silver beacon dropped from orbit, landing gently in the palace courtyard. Everyone froze. It opened slowly, hissing steam, and a small glowing orb floated out. A calm human voice echoed from it. Jake Morgan, we found your signal. Extraction window, 72 hours. Prepare for return. Zelra heard the voice from the balcony. Her heart stopped. She knew this day would come. Jake could finally go home. But if he did, the bond they had started would fade. And she would be left with an empty link, one that could never be repaired. Jake stood in silence as the message played again. He didn't smile. He didn't cry. He just stared at the orb, like it was a ghost from a forgotten life. Zelra walked up. Behind him. Your people are coming. Jake didn't turn. Yeah, 3 days. Zelra lowered her voice. Are you happy? Jake closed his eyes. I thought I would be. But now, I don't know what home means anymore. That night, he walked through the capital city alone. Valexia was glowing. Lanterns floated in the air. Children danced in the streets. Couples held hands human-like and alien alike. He saw a vendor giving out fruit. A child ran to him, offered him a piece with a smile. Jake took it, nodded, and walked away. The taste was sweet. So was the pain inside his chest. He returned to the palace and stood in the same place where he had first seen Zelra fight for him. He whispered into the night, "Why does it feel harder to go back than it was to crash here?" Zelra found him there. This time, she didn't ask questions. She sat beside him, quiet, letting the wind speak for them. After a while, she said, "I won't stop you. If Earth is where you belong, then go." Jake looked at her slowly. "You'd really let me leave?" Zelra didn't smile. "I'm not your cage. I'm just the one who would have stood beside you if you stayed." Her voice cracked on the last word, but she held her face strong. The next morning, the queen requested Jake's presence. She led him to the Chamber of Echoes, a room where voices of the past were stored in crystal walls. She touched one, and a memory played. The first human who had landed on Valexia. He had left, too, but in the recording, he cried as he boarded the ship. Jake watched the past version of himself, confused, scared, divided. The queen looked at him. Some humans leave, some stay, but none forget. What will your memory be, Jake Morgan? With just 1 day left, Jake stood in front of the extraction beacon. The orb glowed, ready to teleport him into orbit. All he had to do was step in. Zelra stood behind him, far enough to respect his choice, close enough to feel every heartbeat. Jake looked back at her. She wasn't crying. She wasn't begging. She was just waiting to see what kind of man he really was. He stepped toward the orb, then stopped and stepped back. Jake turned fully to her and ran straight into her arms. "I don't want to go back," he whispered. "Not without you. Not without what we started." Zelra's eyes widened. "You'd give up Earth?" Jake shook his head. "I'm not giving anything up. I'm choosing where I belong. And it's here." The orb blinked, then dimmed. Time ran out. The portal closed. Jake had made his choice. He wasn't going back. For the first time, Zelra let the tears fall, not for loss, but for love. They were calling it, the day the human chose Valexia. Not because Jake stayed, but because his choice changed everything. In the capital, murals of Jake and Zelra began to appear, him holding her hand, her standing tall beside him, both facing forward. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the ancient laws of greeting were put on hold. No more surprise lifts. No more forced choosing. From now on, the choice must come from both hearts. Jake didn't ask for fame. He didn't want titles, rewards, or golden robes. He just wanted one thing: to live freely and love honestly. And so did Zelra. The queen summoned them once more, this time not in judgment, but in celebration. "You are the first pair," she declared, "to break the old law with respect and to awaken its true meaning." She handed Jake a glowing stone, the mark of voice. "With this," she said, "you will have a place on the council. Not because you are human, but because you reminded us we are more than our customs." Jake didn't give a big speech. He simply turned to the crowd and said, "I crashed here. I didn't know your rules. But someone gave me a chance, and instead of running, I stayed. That's what I hope for all of you, human or alien. A world where no one runs from love, where no one hides behind tradition." The crowd stood in silence. Then one by one, they began to clap. It spread like wind. From the palace. To the streets. To the mountains. Weeks later, Jake walked through the markets not as a stranger, but as one of them. Alien children waved. At him, merchants offered free fruit. Old warriors nodded in quiet respect. He was no longer the lost human. He was the bridge. Zalra and Jake didn't marry in some giant royal ceremony. They chose a quiet place beneath the moon tree where they first held hands. Just a few close friends, a small fire, and a promise spoken with eyes, not words. Their bond completed not by custom but by choice. Years later, when Earth finally made contact, Jake sent back only one message. I'm alive, I'm happy, and I found more than survival here. I found something worth staying for. And on Valexia, when children asked about the old customs, the strange greetings, the lifted dresses, the trials and bonds, teachers would smile and say, that was the old way. But then the human came and taught us how to choose with heart, not habit.